Welcome to the Book Talk with Laura Ponikvar. It's the Indigenous, it's the Recruiters. Oh wait, it's the Marrow Thieves, a dystopian fiction novel written by Cherie Dimaline. The Marrow Thieves is a story in future Canada, which is unpleasant and dehumanizing. Indigenous people are being hunted for their dreams in their bone marrow, to give the rest of the population who do not dream any more dreams. Frenchie the narrator and his brother Mitch are on the run to North due to their mother and father being taken by the recruiters, government officials, getting Indigenous people for their bone marrow. Frenchie and Mitch find a bag of Doritos, which attracts the recruiters towards them and causes Mitch to sacrifice himself for Frenchie. Frenchie begins to run north, attempting to survive on his own. However, Frenchie becomes now malnourished and he's on the verge of death. While he was asleep on the forest floor, a group of Indigenous people take him in and care for him and welcome him into their group. This group of people shortly after become Frenchie's family. As the novel progresses, they meet two Indigenous men, and the novel takes a turn for the worse. After the climax, the novel becomes inspiring and motivating, as the following action and resolution happen. I will not spoil the ending, but The Marrow Thieves is a very complex story that I hope you find intriguing. There are many main characters in The Marrow Thieves, but specifically, there is a protagonist, and his name is Frenchie. Frenchie is the protagonist because he is a central character in The Marrow Thieves. We watch Frenchie grow up and mature on his journey into adulthood. We see Frenchie cares so much about his family and would do anything for them. We always have a view in Frenchie's mind because he is a first-person narrator. There is always an antagonist in the novel, but this novel has 3 antagonists. The antagonists are Travis, Lincoln, and the recruiters, because they work against Frenchie. Travis and Lincoln attempt to get the recruiters to come get Frenchie and his group while they are on their way north. The recruiters work against Frenchie and his group because they are always hunting Indigenous people for their dreams in their bone marrow. There are several secondary characters in The Marrow Thieves: round characters, static characters, dynamic characters, and stock characters. Round characters in The Marrow Thieves are Meg, Wob, Minerva, and Rose. They are all round characters because they are complex and thus realistic. The author developed these characters fully. Meg is a middle-aged Anishinaabe man, which is a father figure to his adopted family of 8 Indigenous children. He speaks the Cree language and teaches the children about their culture. Wob is an 18-year-old woman in Frenchie's family. She is responsible and the one who cares for the oldest, Minerva, and the youngest, Riri, in the group. She is quiet due to her unsteady past of being sexually assaulted. Minerva is an Indigenous elder woman. She is short with gray hair, usually wears her hair in braids with a kerchief tied around her head. She speaks and dreams in Indigenous languages. She attempts to teach the children Cree, but then her memory begins to become questionable. Rose is a teenage girl about Frenchie's age who joins the group shortly after him. She has long black curly hair with big eyes and a big smile. Frenchie develops a crush on Rose. She is a contempt hunter and stays loyal to Frenchie throughout the whole story. Meg, Wob, Minerva, and Rose are all round characters because they are very complex, as you can see. Static characters are Tree, Ziguan, and Isaac, because each character is the same at the end of the story as they are at the beginning. They do not undergo any basic personality changes. Tree and Ziguan are twins that will always support each other. They are quiet and level-headed. They both have many scars and missing pinky fingers. They have a hat that is a symbol of comfort because they both put it on each other to make each other feel better. Isaac, Meg's husband, a mixed European Anishinaabe descent, he was a linguist and he was very optimistic, which led him to being recruited. Dynamic characters in this story are Slopper and Riri, because they both undergo permanent changes in their personality as a result of the situation presented in the story. Slopper is an overweight child that plays with Riri. He gets comfort and food. As the story progresses, he develops and becomes more of a leader in the resistance group. Riri is a 7-year-old girl who came into the group with her mother as a baby, but her mother was taken by the recruiters shortly after. She is a sweet, innocent girl, but once she hears a couple of coming-of-age stories, she begins to think more negatively. She dies, but you will have to read The Marrow Thieves to find out how. A stock character is a stereotyped character whose characteristics are immediately known because of common conception. In The Marrow Thieves, Chi-Boy, the oldest boy in the family, he is patrolling and leaving the false trails. Frenchie looks up to his calm, mature demeanor. He is a stock character in the Marrow Thieves. Frenchie, Travis, Lincoln, the recruiters, Mig, Wob, Minerva, Rose, Tree, Zigwan, Isaac, Slopper, Riri, and Cheeboy are all main characters in the Marrow Thieves. The setting of the Marrow Thieves is in the years after 2050. It takes place in Canada, specifically Northern Ontario. In the future, the world is destroyed due to climate change, and there's a lot of psychological damage. The world cannot dream anymore. The only race that can dream is Indigenous people of Canada. Scientists come up with an idea to harvest bone marrow from them by taking them to residential schools to do so. In this novel, there are a variety of connections, text-to-text, text-to-world, and text-to-self. I see text-to-text connections with the book Diary of the Young Girl, also known as the Diary of Anne Frank, and the Marrow Thieves, because two minority races are being hunted, Jewish and Indigenous. The minority races are hiding from Nazis and recruiters, both government groups, and wars are happening during both stories, World War II and the Water War. There are many similarities between the Diary of a Young Girl and the Marrow Thieves. I see many text-to-self connections with the Marrow Thieves. I relate to the part in the novel when Minerva the Elder died. I can relate because my Dato-Slovenian grandfather died in a retirement residence. He battled ALS for 10 years, and he died being dropped. I feel like I missed out on his stories and learning the Slovenian language and culture due to his death. I can relate to the way Frenchie and Rose feel when Minerva died because she had a long battle, then she was shot and killed. They feel like she had a lot more life to live with teaching and loving, just like I feel with my Dato. I saw a couple text-to-world relationships in the Marrow Thieves. One of the relationships I saw was climate change. In the novel, climate change caused many natural disasters that destroyed the planet as well as the people. Currently, we are experiencing climate change and natural disasters that are destroying our planet and people, just like climate change did in the Marrow Thieves. Another relationship I see between the world and the Marrow Thieves was the use of residential schools. Our big government began to use residential schools in the 1880s to assimilate Indigenous people because the government thought that was the best thing to do for the society. Just like in the Marrow Thieves, the government believes it's the best thing to do is to recreate residential schools for the rest of society to benefit off Indigenous people's dreams in their bone marrow. Those are just a couple of examples of text-to-world relationships in the Marrow Thieves. There are several messages and themes within the novel. 3 that stood out to me were family, self-sacrifice, and oppression. Family is one of the underlying themes within the Marrow Thieves. A family is a group of people with parents and children, with love and respect. We see the theme of family through this novel because Migwan and Minerva take in 8 children on the run north. All of the people in this novel care for each other deeply, like a family would, and love and respect one another. We see the care and love and respect they have for each other when they mourn the loss of family members. We continuously see self-sacrifice as an underlying message within the novel. Self-sacrifice is giving up one's own interests to help advance another person. We see this when Mitch gives himself up to the recruiters to help Frenchie advance in life. There are many more examples of self-sacrifice that go on in this novel. Indigenous oppression is an underlying theme through the Marrow Thieves. We see cruel, unjust treatment to the Indigenous communities in Canada at the time of the novel. There is oppression against the Indigenous communities because everyone in the population loses the ability to dream, except the Indigenous people, which causes Indigenous people to be targeted and kidnapped, then brought to residential schools for the dreams in their bone marrow, creating an underlying theme of Indigenous oppression. Those are 3 main underlying themes and messages within the novel. 2 conflicts in the novel that I see happening are character versus character and character versus self. We see a conflict of characters versus characters in the Marrow Thieves during the climax when Frenchie and the group of protagonists are fighting the antagonists, Travis and Lincoln, the Indigenous traders and kidnappers. They need to get away so they will not be caught by the recruiters, which causes a battle. There is another conflict scene, character versus self, after Frenchie kills Travis. Frenchie mentally torments himself, regretting his actions profusely. He has a guilty conscience, but then he gets over it as the novel progresses, because he knows it was the right thing to do for the group and himself. I hope you enjoyed the book talk with Laura Ponickvar on the Marrow Thieves, and I hope you read it.